Now, the High Court in Pretoria has heard how the Legal Aid Board has issued a notice informing the defence that the assistance of their own ballistics expert, Dave Pieterse, will be limited to only accused number 3, Mthobisi Mncube. This is in the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial. Now, according to the state, Mncube is the alleged gunman who entered Kelly Khumalo's home on the day Senzo Meyiwa was shot and killed back in 2014. Linda Mnisi is in studio with us. As you know by now, he is our Senzo Meyiwa murder trial reporter. And there's been a lot of back and forth around the ballistics issue in court.
Absolutely, Michelle. And this dates back to even during the time of consulting. Once Dave Pieterse was secured as the defense's ballistic expert, there was questions around the consultation, and I remember the judge asking Advocate Mnisi what the standpoint was or the status at the time, and Advocate Mnisi saying this is a point or something that can be answered by the entire defense, and the judge saying, well, I'm asking you because it relates to your client. And he said, well, the allegations is that they are charged with common purpose, so the defense then would have to be the ones that answer collectively about the status of, that consultation. But now, after days of cross-examination of the state's ballistic expert, Chris Mangena, the Legal Aid Board, which is funding a portion of Pieterse's services, has now told the defense that his services will only be limited to accused number 3. If you remember, according to the state, it is accused number 3 who is the alleged gunman. And in 2015, during his arrest in a separate matter, he was found in possession of the gun that they say is the one that killed Senzo Meyiwa. So this evidence ultimately is, in a way, linked to accused number 3 as the alleged gunman and the person who the firearm was recovered from. So Legal Aid now is saying his assistance is now limited only to accused number 3. Let's take a listen to how they put it in their email.
Mr. Pieterse quoted Legal Aid Pretoria office based on the information received from you. Please note that Mr. Pieterse's attendance is limited to cross-examination of the state ballistic witness by Advocate Mnisi only, and his evidence in chief and the cross-examination by the state. Unfortunately, we cannot consider that Mr. Pieterse be present during the evidence of the allegedly additional ballistic witnesses. Mr. Pieterse will only be paid as per the purchase order issued and no additional time, and we cannot give the assurance requested.
All right, from this bite, you hear that the services are only limited to the cross-examination, the evidence in chief of accused number 3 when they decide to open their case, and ultimately the cross-examination that will then be done by the state at a later stage, and nothing more than that. It comes at a time when we've already seen him in court throughout the days. They're saying that the assumption here was that he'd be there for about, or Mangena would be on the stand for about 3 days, but he's been on the stand for quite some time. And you would have heard, for example, the lawyer for accused number 2, Sipora Musipili, putting the version of the expert to the witness. And then, of course, there comes an issue of what happens in that case. And I guess that's why they needed time to engage legal aid to get a sense of what happens now, because other defense lawyers have placed the version of the expert to the witness, but he's also sat through their cross-examination. At some point, you would have seen him writing notes to the lawyers that were cross-examining. And now Legal Aid is saying it is limited only to accused number 3.
So is Legal Aid saying that there's a time limit to this? Because I imagine the budget is the issue that's at play here.
Absolutely, and if you also look at the length of this thing, it's been going on for quite some time. And now they're saying that it is only limited, they were paying based on the purchase order or what they were told, or the information that they were given at the time. So it seems now they're saying, remember, we're only limited to this to this budget, or we're only limited to accused number 3. And it happens or comes at a time when he's already sat through at least 2 of the lawyers, well, 4 at this point, because yesterday you would have heard Advocate Nxumalo putting the version of their own ballistic expert about the work that Christopher Mangena did in the DRC involving a transport minister there. So they want to clarify those issues because according to Advocate Mnisi, it looks like anything that is done by the other defense lawyers may have to come from their own pockets. And I guess that's why the judge sought clarity about what exactly, the context is here, especially when it comes to the dates in question, the dates that have been allocated for their ballistic expert. Let's take a listen.
What is the assurance which was requested? Because they speak about they cannot access.
Just to give a bit of a background, when Mr. Pieterse quoted them, it was on the assumption of certain dates that probably the cross-examination of Lieutenant Colonel Mangena will go up to 3 days. But it has exceeded those days. I then penned an email to them requesting a clarification. Requesting a clarification on what should then be the way forward. This is basically their response now. Because he has already been here for almost more than 7 days. It's more than 5 days, 6 days, yes.
All right, so those are some of the issues, Michelle, that were deliberated in the morning. And they're saying that after proceedings today, they will then go and have a conversation with legal aid about what exactly needs to happen. So cross-examination by the lawyer for accused number 4 continues. But also, Michelle, the conversation about accused number 3 being the one linked to this particular evidence then brings about the question for the need to prolong this cross-examination.
I mean, speaking of prolonging, Linda, how long have we been having the discussion around the ballistics expert, the evidence, the cross-examination of the evidence, the defense bringing their own expert? This is, I know it's an integral part, and we're not legal experts, we're covering the story, but does it feel like an inordinately long amount of time has been spent on the same piece of evidence, just going back and forth?
In fact, if you remember correctly, it's been over a year that Christopher Mangena has given evidence. His testimony had to be stood down for over a year because of the issues around the defense securing their own ballistic expert. And at some point, the judge saying that he's bent over backwards for far too long for the defense. And it has never happened in any case that a witness stands down for over a year. And these are some of the issues that come up when it comes to this particular case and how long it's taking and how long it's dragging on for. The issues around the delays and the times that are requested. And obviously, oftentimes you hear arguments about the right to a fair trial, giving the accused adequate time to defend themselves. But then the question is, how long is too long? The judge says they've bent over backwards. He's bent over backwards for the defense in this particular evidence. How long then should it continue? Because one would then think if it is the lawyer for accused number 3, for example, that is touched by this particular evidence, then the others will argue, of course, around the issue of common purpose. But of course, like Advocate Mnisi says, their standpoint is that they are charged with common purpose. So it then, in a way, implicates all of them, and they need to have an opportunity to cross-question Mangena and ask about the credibility of his work and his findings.
How long is a piece of string? Linda Mnisi, thanks very much indeed for coming on, giving us an update there on the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial.